I'm Dr. Kathy Bush.
And hello, I'm Dr. Tara Peters, and we are the Leadership Doctors. And today we have a wonderful guest that is a part of our Lessons from Leaders video series. And her name is Sine Rowland Davis, and she is a finance director with Ernst and Young. And I know Sine as a student in the DeVos MBA program at Northwood University. And so Sine is an alum, and so it's just wonderful to be able to talk to Sine, to get insights and to learn lessons from her and her experiences in a leadership role. So Sine, thank you for being with Kathy and I this afternoon.
You're welcome.
So let's talk a little bit, Sine, about your leadership journey, and then kind of give us a window in terms of your current role at Ernst and Young.
Okay, so wow, my leadership journey, let's see. I mean, I started at a very young age working. In fact, I started when I was about 15 years old, and I was just working actually, I mean, this may be going back way far back, but I was working at a store. It was called Park Lane Hosiery. I don't know if anyone remembers that, but it was a store in the mall. And it was hilarious because when I got there, you know, I was this 15-year-old girl, very green, but I wanted to be like, you know, one of the best salesperson there. And we weren't really doing anything but selling hosiery and also selling like workout clothes. And so, but it was odd because I was the youngest worker there. But then in like 6 months, I end up being the person who opened and closed the stores. I end up opening and closed the store. I end up actually being the person that did all the inventory, was over the inventory. I would always help the manager of the store with balancing the financial books. And I just was like, this is me. This is something that I really liked. I really liked being in control of kind of running a business. And that was what I always said to myself is I didn't necessarily want to own my own business, but I wanted to help be a business operator for a business. And so it all started for me, I think, when I was 15, working in that store. And then from there, of course, I went to college and did all of that, but then I got my first real job working with Accenture. And at the time it was Anderson Consulting, and it was a consulting firm, and they were a part of Arthur Anderson, but they eventually split off into their own company, and it was rebranded as Accenture. And so I started at Accenture as a financial assistant. It was really more like a customer service role, but I was like, you know what, just to get in the door, it's perfectly fine. But in that role, I was able to interact with a lot of high level partners because they would come to me and they would ask me questions about payables, receivables, just really very basic questions about their portfolio. But I was always there to help. And then when there was special projects, no one wanted to stay late for the special projects. No one wanted to work over the weekend. And I said, well, this was my window to get in the door. And so I would volunteer for all the special projects. And to be honest, some of them I had no idea how to do. Like, I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. I have no idea. They want me to do ROIC. I've never done this before. So anyways, I would just go and I would start researching stuff. And I was like, I can do this. I can do this. And then I would ask the partners questions, and I would just be very inquisitive, and they would call me the red pencil or pen girl because I would come to the meetings and I always had my questions prepared, and I would always write them in red pencil. But it wasn't because I was trying to get attention. It was just because those were the pens in accounting firms. We used a lot of red pencils, and so I would bring my red pencil. So through that process as an assistant, I grew my career at Accenture from assistant, and I was promoted all the way up through, and I got to the senior manager level. And so at the senior manager level, I worked for a guy. He was great. I loved him. His name was George Abigail. But when I first started working with, I didn't like him. And my first encounter with him, he was so tough. And so, just to be honest, he was just very blunt and dogmatic. And I was more of a touchy-feely kind of person. I worked really hard, but no one had ever really talked to me in a way that he did. So then he actually kind of opened the door for me and told me that I was actually a lot brighter than I was giving myself credit for. And that meant a lot with him because everyone else told me that he was extremely tough. He was a very difficult person to work for. And he was extremely hard on me. The first encounter with him, I cried. So, but then we end up becoming really good colleagues. And I'll just tell you the story, and then I'll move on to how I got to EY. But it was one day, you know, I would always come into his office. And I was like, hey, George, what's going on? I was always the very, very hyper one. And he would just say, sit down, get down to business. And, we'd go over the PowerPoint, and I only had like 15 minutes. And so then one day I got this feedback from this manager, and she goes, well, maybe you shouldn't go in his office that way. Maybe you should just be very blunt and straightforward. And so I did that one time, and he stopped the meeting and he said, are you okay? And I said, I'm fine. He says, there's something wrong with you. And I said, well, what do you mean? He said, because you usually come in my office and you're usually really, really chipper. And I said, well, I didn't think you wanted to deal with that. You just always seem like you had something on your mind. He says, no. He was like, I didn't hire a robot. I did not hire a robot. I don't want people like me. I want people that are different from me. And he was like, please be your authentic self. He was like, I don't care. You talk the way you talk, be who you are. And he's the one who opened the door for me that it was okay to be my authentic self. And my authentic self, even though, I'm a Southerner and I dealt with global people, I would deal with people that were well spoken, English, and they had from England because it was a global firm. I would come on the call and they would say, let's hear Sine talk, and they would say, I always made them feel really good. But I was also, not only that, they felt like I was extremely bright and I added value. And so he actually told me, he was like, Sine, in 2 years, your job's not going to be here. And he said, but you are such a great performer. He was like, we're offshoring to India and Argentina, and I'm preparing you for this. And he didn't tell anyone else this. He told me this in confidence. And he said, so what I want you to do, I'm going to put you in a role so you can get your MBA. He said, that's what I'm going to do. So he said, I'm going to put you in a role, you're going to get your MBA, and then just be prepared to move. And so he's the one who put me in a role where I could attend Northwood, get my MBA, and then literally 2 years later, I had a role, but all my friends started losing their jobs. And I was like, I'm next. I just knew I was next. And so one of my colleagues went to Ernst and Young, and she said, Snake, I got the perfect role for you. You got to come interview. So I went to the interview, and it was a finance director role. I was a senior manager, it was a finance director, and they were very comparable, but my portfolio was larger than I had ever managed from a financial perspective. And so I had the interview. I did like 3 interviews. Maybe like a week later, they called me and they said, this job, we can't give you this job because we need an insider. But the director who interviewed me said, but I'm going to call you back. I didn't believe him. And it was like 3 months later, he called me back and said, I got the perfect role for you. And it's a portfolio role. You're going to be over a book and it's yours. I know you'll do well. And that was literally 5 years ago. And the promotion cycle has been very slow, but I'll tell you, I kind of pulled back because my daughter is in high school and I needed to be, she was in junior high, and you know how it is when kids are in junior high, and she's a girl, and I needed to spend some time with her and spend some valuable time with her to prepare her. And, in the transition, I was telling you that my mom, she passed away, and I worked an awful lot. And I was like, I was there for my mom, but I was like, I wish I would have just had that extra, moment, that extra second. And I said I wasn't going to do that with my daughter. I was not going to miss one moment of her life. And so even though I worked really, really hard, I've purposely stepped back in my career journey. And I told her, as soon as you go to college, I'm revving the engine. I got 3 years and I'm going for I want to get to the next level. And so I'm a finance director. I love my role. But that kind of gives you an idea of my journey, but it's not over because I plan on getting to the next level. And, I don't know, I don't know if I'll be the CFO of the company, but I plan on being someone at the table. And that's my journey.
Oh my goodness, Sine, what a great series of events. And you told some excellent stories about mentors and values that you have that have pulled you through. And so thank you for sharing that with us. I'm wondering what the current situation with the COVID-19 pandemic and social distancing, people working virtually and all of that. I'm wondering how that's playing out in your world, if you can give us a brief summary of that.
Well, it's been very interesting because a lot of my team members, we work from home, but I think we've learned to appreciate being able to at least, meet up a couple of times a week in person. And so you can kind of start to see an isolation feeling with people, even though we're talking on the phone, it's kind of tough. So you have to be creative. Sometimes I do video, sometimes I don't. And I don't pressure my teams to do videos. Like some of my counterparts are like, you have to be on a video. And I don't want to do that because every morning someone's not going to want to get on the video, you know? And so I try to be cognizant of that. But that, and then, you know, people have had people in their, you know, their lives that have been impacted by the virus. And that's difficult because they can't see their loved ones. They can't, you know, they may can bring them something, but they can't see them. And that's hard because especially if they're struggling, they have to do that by themselves. And so, you know, that's happened. And then our clients have come to us and said, can we have fee concessions for our next audit year? Because they've had to make very tough financial decisions, lay employees off, furlough employees. They're starting to be cash constrained. But, you know, as a client, we have absolutely sat at the table. I mean, as a partner, excuse me, in a company that's serving that client, we've actually sat at the table with them, and we're dialoguing, discussing with them, saying, okay, we understand your situation. We're trying to be as compassionate as possible, but we're also a firm that has employees that have to we have to pay them, and, you know, we have to make money, and we have to go out and do what we need to do. And so, but we have been very compassionate. And also, one of the things I was so impressed with EY, our chief officer, chief partner that's over the entire firm, she had a conference call with every single employee, and she said, I promise you, we will not lay off one person. And she says, we will do whatever we have to not lay off one person. So if that meant we didn't get our bonuses that year, everybody was just happy to hear that, because we know other companies where people are getting furloughed and laid off. And so that was very impressive. But it's funny because yesterday something happened to me. You know, I guess a part of working for several blunt people, to be quite honest. Sometimes I'm that way. Sometimes I just want to get to business. Most of the time I'm really chipper, but when I am driving for something, if I have a directive for something, it's like there's nothing that's going to take my eye off of the ball or the game. And so there was something that I had told my managing partner that I was going to take care of, and our numbers weren't looking really well. And so I just said, buckle down. And I sent a note to all the partners that hadn't done what we told them to do. And I didn't say good morning in my email. I didn't say, how are things going? I didn't do any of that. But then at the end, I did say, thank you, have a wonderful day, you know, whatever. But I was like, I need you this, and if you don't do this, this was gonna happen. You know, I was just very honest. And so one of the partners, who's actually she's alongside of the managing partner that I work for, she sent me a note. She says, did you send this out? I said, yes. And she says, next time I need for you to start off with a pleasant greeting. And I was like, oh, okay. And I was like, you know, and she said, this is a very difficult time, you know, and she was like, you know, people are struggling. Some people are very sensitive to things. And I was just like, oh, wow. You know, honestly, I was just trying to get to business. But it was very eye-opening. And I was at first, you know, I was going to try to defend, but I've learned, you know, I said, you know what? Thank you. I take this as coaching. I take this as, you know, mentoring. I said, you know, really, and it was the strangest feeling that I had. And it all relates to this. I had a gut inside of me saying, say good morning, but I didn't listen to that gut. I did not listen. And doing this process, even though you may have a sensitive nature about you have empathy, sometimes, you know, as a driver, that doesn't come out. And so I had to realize that even though for the most part, I've been very compassionate, I've been very empathetic with my team, I still need to always remember in times like this. And so that's one of the things that I found, that people are extremely sensitive. And I don't know if someone sent her an email and said, you know, Sinead came across very blunt, and it wasn't a rude email, but it was very direct, and she may need to soften her tone. I have no idea. But when I talked to the managing partner that supports me, he didn't care. Like, he just was going on and on. I probably, the 50 emails that I got back, no one even said, Sinead, I just not like you at all. But it was just the craziest situation. But it was still, if it's that one person that's going through something, right, that I have to remember that. And so I've just learned, you know, our company is struggling from a perspective of just making sure that the people know that we're all in this together. But they are doing a really good job, because we have communications. Every day we get a daily update. We have webinars, webcasts, face-to-face. Our leaders are constantly saying, how are you guys doing? And so that's made all of the difference. And I can tell that even though we're being worked a lot, in fact, I told my boss, I was like, you know what, you guys need to go sell some work or something, because I'm used to them being outside. Things are happening is that now they're giving us all this work. Like they're thinking of like all of this stuff, right? You know how it's when you sit at your desk and you're like, oh yeah. So they're thinking like, so I was like, go, smooth your clients or something. I don't know. But so it's just been a difficult situation, but it's also been a pleasant situation because I've really seen the culture. I knew it was there at EY when I came, how they take care of their people, how they train their people, how they invest in their people. But the way that they have communicated and had empathy and assured us, it's really taken our commitment to the company to another level during this time.
So you've given us a lot of insights there, Sine, around the business with EY, and also to a sense of how you respond as a leader in difficult situations, and even to maybe something that you didn't want to hear in terms of a critique, if you will. So kind of give us a window in terms of, as you think about your own guiding principles, I mean, what are those values that really drive you as a leader, right? What are those kind of major, these are my, my centerpieces, my hallmarks of who I am as a leader, and give us some kind of a brief insight into those, and then maybe how they changed or not during the pandemic.
The one thing that I've always tried to have is integrity in my work. I mean, and if I make a commitment that I tell someone I'm going to do something, I am going to do it. And if I can do it, I'm not going to wait to the day and tell that person that I can't deliver. I try to really do have integrity in my work, and that has transcended from at a very young age all the way up to where I am now. I think it's just very important that you do what you say and you say what you do. And that's what I try to instill in my team, and that's how I am. I also try to take a value of ownership. That is so important to me. My managers, I tell them, this is your business. When you look at your bank account, whatever it is, you balance it, you check it out, you look at your returns, you do all this, run this like it's your business. And so my value is ownership, having that strong ownership and saying, you know what, it's not just about supporting a partner and just checking off the checklist. You have to be able to advise the partner, and you have to be able to tell the partner, even give them tell them things that they don't want to hear, but they appreciate your honesty. So ownership, integrity, and then also just really being authentic. I mean, that is the thing that I've had to learn in all the phases of my career. I have tried to sometimes take on other personas because I was thinking, they're going to think, oh my gosh, she can't. I mean, one person told me, you can't possibly always be in a good mood every single day. And I was like, I'm not, but I'm living, So that's the mentality that I take into everything that I do, is to try to be authentic and not change because someone else, because people can see that. People can see when you're not true to who you are, or you're trying to be someone else, or you're trying to emulate someone else. And it's okay. Like I tell myself, there are people that are like mentor, that coach me. Of course, I want to be like them in terms of their business mind, the way they look at things, they're savvy, how they make connections, how they network. But the personality of who I am, I have to take that in my everyday job, and I carry that with me. Now, I will tell you that on that other side, the things that I have to constantly work on is what I was telling you all earlier, is that I am a driver. And when I drive, even though I have this little, personality, but when I'm driving, for some reason, I don't know, it's like another personality comes on and all that goes away. And it's like, I just have this straight vision. And if you can't get in that lane and get it done, then, sometimes I can be a little harsh. And so I have to step back sometimes and think that, you can still drive, but you should always, always remember that sometimes there are things going on around you, that either may be causing someone to be in a difficult situation, or even with some of the partners, sometimes it really is not about you, right? It's something, maybe they got into a dialogue discussion with a client, or maybe they had a bad day, or I don't know. But at the same time, I have to remember that in my driving, I'm not going to stop driving, because I tell my team at the end of the day, we have a job to do. We have to deliver. And so when in that conversation, I can still have that empathetic way about me that I know that's there, that I demonstrate pretty much 80% of the time, but that 20% can be real lethal, you know? But that's the one thing that I constantly try to work on, is that bluntness, and really being able to understand that some things are out of my control, and I need to be able to adapt even when I'm driving through that process. So I think that's the thing that I constantly work on. I will admit that I do have issues there, but I'm a work in progress.
Oh, Sine, it's so clear to me that your authentic self has so much commitment to other people, and joy and pride in the work you're doing, not only for the successes you've had, which are accomplished, but also for the benefit that you have in leading other people. And so thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and your insights with us. I think we could talk on and on and on, but we've come to the end of our time. And so for those of you who've enjoyed watching Sine and listening to her words of wisdom, we just want you to know that we have more lessons from leaders on our website, and we'll be releasing them as we get an opportunity to speak with more people. And so we hope you've enjoyed this conversation with Sine. And thank you, Sine, so much.